This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is The List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle.
You are listening to List Building Lifestyle with the king of list building himself, Mr. Igor Kheifets. What is up, my man?
All good, and I would like to be transformed into the king of proof now, since today's episode is all about that.
Okay, all right, I'm down with that.
Okay, so the king of proof shall speak his mind, and the reason I want to chat about proof because it seems to be one of the most common barriers that people use as an excuse why they're not making sales and why they're not reaching out to people, why they shouldn't be writing their own emails and all that good stuff. Now, in my opinion, that's bullshit because proof means nothing. And I'll explain why. You see, income screenshots can be easily faked. And you know that, Jonathan.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, anyone can do it. Today, with the Photoshop available, and I've even seen video proof faked. That's incredible. To which extent, scammers will go to kind of fake their own proof. And same thing for testimonials. They can be easily forged. So what is left? How else do you create proof? And does it mean that if you have legit proof, proof that you are really making money, it won't work? Well, first things first, if you do have legit proof, it helps. But it helps at the stage of pushing people off the fence, not so much of getting their attention, because they get shoved proof in their faces all day long. And what it ended up creating is what's called ad blindness. So at this point, if you get on your Facebook feed and you scroll 3 scrolls, that's all you need, 3 scrolls, you'll definitely see at least one screenshot of someone saying, I'm making all this money, inbox me, right? And, unfortunately, that sort of saturated the market and the consumer got kind of sick and tired of that. So using proof as means of getting people's attention is no longer effective. The subject lines that used to work back in the day, such as how I've made $17,000, 443, .22 or something, like the weird numbers, right? We've all been told to use them. That doesn't work anymore. Nobody's impressed with that because everybody knows how easily proof can be faked. So does it mean that you shouldn't use your proof? No, you should definitely use your proof, but only at the stage where the prospect already believe that you are genuine about everything else. At that point, you can say, okay, and here is what I've made last month, right? Because at that point, they will be much more likely to believe you, and that will play the right role in pushing the prospect off the fence. Now, testimonials can be forged easily as well, like I said, but they too play a really cool role if the prospect is already considering to buy from you. If you shove testimonials down people's throats before they believe that you are genuine in everything you're saying, then automatically you're the bad guy who fakes his own testimonials.
Wow.
And we've all been there, right? We can present as many testimonials as we want. We can be, presenting them until we're blue in the face. In fact, that's exactly what I can do to anyone who wants to argue with me about the quality of my traffic. They can just go to igorsolowitz.com/testimonials.html and they'll see an infinite scroll of proof that the traffic is producing sales, high opt-in rates, etc. But that won't help if the prospect already believes that I'm an asshole, right? That I sell fake traffic. It just won't help because they'd be like, oh, look how much proof he faked. Automatically, that's just the perception. So what then do we do? Because the average prospect is skeptical, sick and tired, right? And just not likely to believe a piece of proof that we show them. And what I discovered that this has been true not only in the last 5 years, but actually in the last 500 years. People have been scammed in all sorts of ways ever since the beginning of time. There's this principle of duality, according to Zen philosophy, where everything has its opposites, like, black and white, yin yang, and stuff like that. So if you got honest people in the marketplace, you will always have the dishonest ones, and vice versa. So if since the dawn of time, people were scammed, and proof is a really subjective concept that doesn't really help, then what do we do? Now, I would like to, of course, keep this within the realm of making money online industry, of the specifically the biz up space, the space where we sell information products. I mean, you fit there, Jonathan, with your podcasting course as well, with your podcasting service, because you need to provide proof to people that it results in actual income, right?
Yeah.
So, in other words, what do we do? What kind of proof can we provide to people that will initially build enough trust for us to then open the door to an entirely different conversation where we're no longer the enemy or the potential threat, but more so an ally? And so I've given this lots of thought. I spent a lot of money testing paid advertising with my own income, right? Paying out of pocket, not with my customers' money, although that element is too, it is present in my business where I get to enjoy the benefit of seeing how other people's campaigns perform. So I do get that knowledge and experience, and I try to feed it back to the marketplace the best I can. And so the only type of proof that I've discovered that works to build credibility right off the bat has nothing to do with income proof, but it has everything to do with emotions. So I'm talking about the emotional proof that can only be created, in my humble yet accurate opinion, through storytelling.
Nice. How do you use stories without having any actual proof? How does that work, Igor?
Okay, now that's a great question. So how do you tell a story that tells people, hey, I'm legit, I can show you how to make money, I can show you how to succeed, yet I am a nobody myself, right? Or maybe I'm somebody with slight results, maybe tiny little results, but not much. And so that's the question I've asked myself when I first launched my coaching thread on the Warrior Forum, where I wanted to coach people for $300. Now, at the time, I wanted to get married. Well, actually, I told this story how I got guilt tripped into getting married, but I felt it was my idea at the time, and I was about $1,000 short for a trip to Czech Republic, where me and my wife eventually got married in this beautiful castle. So, I needed the money. And I decided that I'm going to make that money online. At the time, I made a little bit of money. I had a list of about 1,700 people. I was, modestly successful with affiliate marketing, not enough to quit my day job, but I was already depositing, ClickBank checks in the bank, which incidentally, man, I'm just trying to remember this right now. It would take 3 weeks for the check to clear. Can you believe that? It would take me a month to make the money. ClickBank would take 2 weeks for to send the check and for the check to get to me. And then I had to wait 3 more weeks for the Israeli bank to clear it with the US bank. It was a nightmare. Honestly, it was a nightmare. But I said to myself, look, I want to make this money online no matter what. And I'm going to use whatever I've got. And I'm going to get 3 people to pay me $300 because that would be enough to pay our plane tickets and the hotel. Because Czech Republic, is not an expensive country. You could get away with, really cool vacation for 2, including hotel, for less than $1,000.
Wow.
And so I started writing the copy. And at the time, I was heavily influenced by John Carlton, the Dan Kennedy, the Frank Kern, the Ryan Dices of the world. And so I found a sales letter I could model, and I modeled it, which, in a way which I believe is most effective. I think I still have the sales letter somewhere. It was a fairly short sales letter, only about 5 pages long, which is nowhere near what I write today. It's like more like 25 pages.
Wow.
Yeah. So the sales letter basically said, look, I'll be happy to coach you because I can, and because I have this thing that I want, which is to get married in Czech Republic. And you know what I've done, Jonathan, knowing that I have no proof whatsoever? What I've done is I simply told the story. I told the story of how my wife kept on nagging me for 2 months about this amazing castle in Czech Republic where people get married, where it's most amazing fairy tale like experience, of how she dragged me to a travel agent, how I was presented with the price tag, how I agreed to take the trip not having the money, and in all the emotions that went through my body when I've done it, and that later that night when I couldn't fall asleep because I realized the commitment I got myself into. I told that story and used it as quote unquote reason why to offer the coaching. I was completely honest about the fact that I'm not a guru, and I used it basically saying, look, I'm not a guru. I had mediocre results with affiliate marketing. So if you are in a place where nothing works for you, I can help you take the next step up. right? I can help you to get to a point where you're making like, $200 a week. This is not for you if you want to get rich. This is for you if you want to take the next step, which is the place where I am right now. And I can show you what I've done, and hopefully you'll get the same results. Again, no income screenshots, Jonathan. No testimonials whatsoever. Just the damn story, honest, damaging admission saying I'm not a guru, and a buy now button to PayPal for $300. Now, what happened in the next 2 weeks is I generated 4 clients. 4 clients, Jonathan. I don't kid you. 4 clients. So that was more than I needed. And I went to Czech Republic with extra spending cash, which was awesome, by the way. It was a 4-day trip, and it was pretty damn cool. One of the best experiences of my life. Now, what's important, though, is that it sparked another set of amazing experiences. First off, I got my first coaching client. And the first coaching client was a guy from Australia, which I ended up taking to $10,000 per month.
Wow.
Yes, he paid me only $300, but I ended up just teaching him everything that I was learning at the time. And all of a sudden, after doing that, after telling this story in my sales letter, I realized, oh my God, people believe me. And by telling my story in a genuine way, it actually helps me make more sales. And I started doing it more often. I got the confidence to write more sales letters. And before you know it, within the next few months, I made my first $10,000 month. And I took the first guy with me to that point because he was just literally copying everything I was doing. He was telling his story. He was writing his own sales letters, etc. I also started working with 3 other people, one of whom became one of my flagship success stories and ended up co-hosting a coaching program with me, the same coaching program I mentioned many times on the show. She was responsible for the content in the coaching program. And she ended up getting to a point of making about $12,000 or $14,000 per month at one point. I don't know if she's making anything like that right now. We're not communicating right now. I haven't spoken to her in a while, but at the time, again, I helped her get to that level, and I actually wrote her first sales letter for her with the exact same concept. She was selling a product on outsourcing on the Warrior Forum. She sold, I think, 2,000 copies of that product. Amazing.
Wow.
So it was just, again, same thing. Telling a story which provides emotional proof element, which then allows the prospect who reads the letter to not see you as the enemy anymore, but rather see you as a genuine human being with a name and history, someone they can relate to. And that changes the way they see you from now on and moving forward. So that is what created the sales. That is what created the success. And, ever since I've been using stories in my marketing. Obviously, at this point, several years later, I am telling much better stories. And this is a skill you can perfect over time. But even then, when I sucked at storytelling, I still made a lot of shit happen.
No kidding, man. I'm sitting here shocked thinking that wedding story actually worked in a sales letter. I struggle so hard. I can't write. I choose not to write sales copy because it's just not fun for me. But the way you're describing it sounds okay. sounds like something doable. So where did you start your journey in storytelling? Was it something that you studied, or was it just by you putting it out there and trying? Where did this begin for you?
Well, as I mentioned, I was a big fan of John Carlton's work, of Dan Kennedy's work, and the storytelling element was mentioned several times as a tool in their toolkit. Now, obviously, there was other elements like scarcity, the guarantee, the bonuses, which is the obvious stuff that pops out for everybody who's brand new to copywriting. And so that's why you see beginner copywriters mostly write hype with a guarantee, a deadline, and a PS, right? That's how most beginner sales letters look like. But, what I spotted is that every single time these guys would produce a new sales copy, they would tell some sort of a story. And then once I spotted this and I took note, and you know how the moment you start looking for something, it starts appearing everywhere?
Yeah.
So I stumbled into a seminar recording where John Carlton was the speaker, one of the speakers, and he went on stage, and for the next 60 minutes, he was just literally teaching storytelling. He was telling you there was 3 types of stories. I don't quite remember what they are. I'll do my best to remember them in just a minute. But basically, he just went on for 60 minutes about how stories are your best bet to convert if you got no proof, no market credibility, and you're just brand new and trying to hit a volatile marketplace that's full of competitors. So I guess it stuck with me and I used it. Now, trying to remember the types of stories John spoke about is I clearly remember he was telling the one about the mad scientist story, which is basically I had this problem and I couldn't solve it. I went to Guru A, I went to Guru B, I went to Guru C. None of these solutions worked for me. So I committed my life to finding the solution to this problem and eventually developed my own. Right, so that's one story, which is the mad scientist story. The one story that worked for me with the wedding, for instance, it's not really the mad scientist story. It's more of a personal experience story where, it's the reason why story. It's basically the reason why the offer has been created in the first place, not how I came up with the content. So the focus, is put on why am I offering such an amazing deal and why should I be trusted, right? Ever since I told a bunch of different stories, there's the story of two men, for instance, which is another one that I love. It was first used to sell the subscription to Time magazine back in the day. And I think you heard it, John. It's pretty popular. Basically goes something like this. Two men born in the same town, went to the same high school, were pretty average in school. After graduation, apply for work in the same factory and get the job and start working. 20 years later, the same two men are pretty much the same. Both have families, both have middle school education, both are pretty fit and lean and healthy, and both still work at that same factory. Only one man is still a mid-level employee, while the other man is the CEO. What's the difference? Time magazine. So
It was just a quick, it's the Wall Street Journal, and that actual letter was what built the whole publication, was that direct response letter with the two men, and it's a great little sample there.
Oh yeah, thank you. So it's the Wall Street Journal, but the point is, it's the two men, right? It's
Yeah.
clearly like painting this clear picture of a difference between the behavior, the one behavior that created the separation, which led to one person succeeding greatly in life professionally, while the other person remained exactly where he was, for the last 20 years. So there's a bunch of different types of stories you could be telling for sure. And if you are smart enough, if you observe any high quality marketer, you will note that everybody tells stories. So one of the most important stories you can ever tell, and by far probably the most effective one, is your origin story. It's the story without which you do not make sense as a marketer. You know what, Jonathan? I'm a big comic fan, both Marvel and DC comics, and Batman happens to be one in my top 3 favorite characters. So Batman, right? Who's Batman? He is basically Bruce Wayne, a guy who puts on a bat suit and goes fighting bad guys at night. But does Batman make any fucking sense without the origin story of a bad guy mugging his mother and father and killing his parents right in front of his eyes, and him, kind of falling into this depression and then falling into a pit full of bats and deciding to become a vigilante?
Nice.
It makes some sense, maybe, but not much. It makes way more sense if we know the story. That is why no matter which Batman film you watch, right, whichever like version of Batman, because now there's a bunch of different versions. My favorite one is the Dark Knight series. I mean, I absolutely loved it.
Me too.
So there's always the origin story that we're seeing, because without it makes no sense. The most recent Batman version with Ben Affleck, right? In that movie, Batman versus Superman, they still show the damn, origin story for Batman, even though everybody knows it, but they still show it because they can't be sure if the viewer watching the movie knows that story, so they need to show it again and again and again. So for you as a marketer, right, you're not Batman, you're not fighting bad guys, but you are solving some sort of a problem or a need in the marketplace. So that's your bad guy. And now you need to tell a story of where you come from and why you have devoted at least some part of your life to solving that problem for others. That could be that game-changing story, which if told to your prospect can make them look at you and say, you know what, I like you. What else do you have to say? And then you can talk to them about your product or service. But until then, you better be telling stories, because it's going to be really hard to get them to listen otherwise.
Now, Igor, is this something that when people sign up for your VIP club, is this something that you help them with?
Yeah, sure. We definitely work on storytelling, if that's something you want to do. But more importantly, if you don't know how to tell your own stories, the one thing you could check out is you could reach out to us by going to igorsolitz.com or by emailing Dennis if you already know how to reach him and asking about the conversion bundle where we build you a full-blown sales funnel with your own origin story. Okay, that includes a long-form sales letter, okay, 2 squeeze pages, a 30-day email sequence, all for just $19.97. And this has proven to be extremely effective at getting complete newbies without any credibility to get their first set of signups, which is incredible. I mean, I'm still amazed how good the stories work and how, if you will, predictable the human psyche is and how irresistible we are, or say, good emotional story is to our brain, right? Because we always want to think of ourselves as the, what's the term they used in the Bonfire Vanities? The masters of the universe, right? We always want to think of ourselves as masters of the universe, but the truth of the matter is we are predictable. Our brain responds a certain way to certain elements, and storytelling is one such element that just hypnotizes the brain into becoming more receptive, becoming more open-minded, and not being so freaking skeptical all the time.
Good grief, man. So we went overtime on this. That's how important storytelling is to your business. Thank you, Igor. Thank you, list builders, for tuning in, and we will be back with you next time.
Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.